podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to the 1905 podcast. Each week, Joe and I bring you our unfiltered takes on the highs, the lows, and everything in between, following the Blues from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes.
So, the first leg of the League Cup semi-final between Chelsea and Arsenal has just finished, and it was a defeat for Chelsea. Arsenal 3, Chelsea 2, and yeah, a pretty disappointing game for us performance-wise. I didn't think we did a great deal. I'll be honest with you, how we've come away with a 3-2 loss, I'm quite shocked by that. I didn't really enjoy what I saw, if I'm honest. There were flashes of brilliance from certain players. I thought Estevao was exceptional tonight, very young man, up against an incredible back four, and I thought he gave them trouble all night long, first half and second half, and could have easily had a goal or two himself. But they were sort of only created by him. It wasn't through brilliant play by Chelsea. I think what I'm probably most disappointed about is the way we played, particularly out from the back. I was watching it and just counting them over and over again every time Chelsea had a goal kick, and we had lots of goal kicks tonight. Fofana spotted the ball in the 6-yard box. He passed it 3 yards to Sanchez, who dallied on the ball for a good 4 or 5 seconds, who then passed it back to Fofana. Or, indeed himself, would pass it out from the back and give it away just about every single time they had possession. And it was criminal. It was Enzo Maresca's first season. It was the same levels of shite from playing out from the back. It was woeful. And the thing is, what I couldn't understand was, where's the variation? Even if you want to play out from the back short passes, why are we not involving any other players apart from Fofana and Sanchez? Why are we giving Sanchez so many touches of the football? He's one of the worst with the ball at his feet. He's a great long passer. Short passing is not his bag. I just beggars belief. The script has been ripped up. New manager comes in, younger guy, fresh ideas. And the idea that we have is give it to Sanchez more. Just dumbfounded by the stupidity and the idiocy of that tactic. And even at 3-2, when there's about 5 minutes to go, we're in the 90th minute, there's 5 minutes to go of injury time. Every time we had the ball at the back, again, we had 2 or 3 goal kicks in that period, we played it short and passed it backwards. I just couldn't get my head around it. And frankly, I'm just so disappointed in that part of our game today because it was so one-dimensional. It was embarrassing. I was just getting more and more frustrated watching us shoot ourselves in the foot time and time again. It was just mind-numbingly dumb. And then we come onto the game itself. I mean, I'm not going to go through all the game because I realise Chris wants to get on here and have his say, so I'm going to sort of just be brief with some of the stuff. But Rob Sanchez, one of his worst games. It's got to be said. It's definitely his worst game of the season by a country mile. That, again, it was going back to Enzo Maresca's first season. Couldn't catch, couldn't punch, couldn't save, couldn't kick, couldn't pass. And to be frank, he just looked so nervous. He just looked nervous from kickoff. He was flapping around, and when the camera was panning to him, he was muttering to himself all the time. And he just didn't look like a man that was in any way kind of fit to be in goal tonight, quite frankly. His error for the first goal is woeful. The cross that he just flaps at. I mean, he's 7'8". Goodness me. With his arms stretched out, I mean, he's taller than the fucking stadium. And yet he managed to flap at that and get that one wrong. And then obviously the second goal, a powder puff cross from the right-hand side, and he just manages to dive over the ball, but just touching it enough so that he can just put it in the path of Gyökeres, who just tapped it in from 1 yard. At that point, I just wanted to turn the TV off, to be honest with you, because I'd had enough of watching it. But I think there were some bright moments. I mean, the fact that Garnacho's come on as a substitute and scored 2 goals, I'm pleased for him because I think he actually hasn't done too badly in a Chelsea shirt since his arrival. He's had 1 or 2 poorish games, but I think overall he's been quite a bright spot for Chelsea. And actually, his 2 goals he took were very, very good. His first one, shooting low down past Kepa, and obviously his second one, that's a difficult chance, bouncing ball, and he had to get over it and controlled it well to keep it down. And effectively, that's kept us in the tie, because I think the 2-goal cushion is going to be difficult, really difficult to turn around. Having 1 goal is going to be hard enough, but I think 2 would have been almost out of sight. And I can see Arsenal suffocating us a little bit in the second leg. I can see that happening, but it's given us some kind of hope and something to cling on to. If the game's close, if the game is somehow 0-0 or 1-1 going into the last 15, 20 minutes, I think Arsenal, like any team, when you're at home, you do get nervous. And obviously they haven't won a trophy for a while. So I think they'll probably be thinking along the lines of, well, let's not give this away. So it's given us an opportunity to sort of at least cling on to something in the second leg. I was bitterly disappointed with the substitutions. I mean, we've brought on Badiashile and Tosin and Hato. Going for goals it was just scary. I mean, I'm just unsure what the rationale was behind that. And as I said, my voice note the other day, okay, Badiashile and Tosin didn't start today, but we've actually brought them both on. We've brought both of those players on. To be honest with you, Trev and Fofana weren't great. And I actually thought that when Zubimendi went past Fofana for the 3rd goal, I looked at him, and if you go back and watch the clip, Fofana's knees just sort of buckle and give way. He does play a little bit gangly anyway, Fofana, but I just thought to myself, I think you're just 1 or 2 injuries past it, mate. I really do. I don't see Fofana. I really don't see him being a top-class centre-half for Chelsea. I'm sort of at that stage with him where I go, I think you're above average at best. And Trev is probably in that category too. They're just above average. They're no more than that. They're no worse than that, but they're no more than that. And between the 4 of them, Tosin, Badiashile, Trevor and Fofana, it doesn't make for great reading. I think playing in a back 3 would suit them, because I think you could play one of them, play sort of a Hato Cucurella to the left of them. You could play a Reece James or a Achimpong to the right of him, and I think that might work a lot better, if I'm honest with you. I think playing them at a 2 at the moment, we're just not good enough defensively. We're not. We are pretty poor. And I don't. This obsession with keeping the ball at the back with our players that can't play out from the back is just really, it's a poor decision. And I get the rationale. You bring the opposition team onto you. You can pass through the lines. You can get the other side of them. When it works great. And listen, this is Liam Rosenior's first home game. He's had to do 2 cup matches, an FA Cup 3rd round, obviously a semi-final of a League Cup. They're never going to be, the Charlton game was an easy game, but this game was never going to be easy for him. Arsenal are a very good team, and we should caveat that. Whether you like Arsenal or not, give them their due tonight. They were far the better side. They deserve to win. There's no question. We could have come away with a draw at the end if one of those shots flies in, but it would have been probably way against the run of play, and I wouldn't in any way kind of been sitting on here tonight going a 3-3 draw. We deserved it. We wouldn't have done it. It was a very substandard performance by Chelsea, but we've kind of kept ourselves in the tie. And I'm not being a Debbie Downer. I just didn't see a lot of good performances. I thought Enzo Fernandez at times was good in patches. I didn't like the fact that he was marking Gabriel. I can't work that one out either. I mean, Fernandez is half his height. Yes, he's got the aggression to kind of put up a fight with Gabriel, but he's not someone that you immediately think is going to go and beat him in the air. And to be honest with you, when at 3-1, I think it was, they have a corner and it comes in. Fernandez loses Gabriel by miles and he heads it down and it goes over the bar. Sanchez is actually in the goal. Had it been on target, it would have gone in anyway because Sanchez was pulled back by the crowd, it seemed, into the goal net. So, again, another mismatch there. But I thought Fernandez as a whole didn't do too badly. He did very well for the first goal for Garnacho by actually winning the ball 3 or 4 times in tackles and blocks. He got a lucky ricochet. Neto puts a cross in for Garnacho to score. But I thought Neto was poor, really, really poor. He makes the cross for the goal for Garnacho, but overall his passing was just atrocious. He can't seem to pass 4 or 5 yards anymore. He's really gone off the boil. And again, maybe he needs to change the position. Maybe he's coming at the team for a little bit. I don't know. But again, he's not playing very well. And Chelsea missed Palmer. They missed Caicedo. They missed the lap. I see Mark Guiu didn't have much to do. He barely touched the ball all night long. And can someone just tell him that we're living in the modern age and wearing shorts that are 15 times too big for you? Not only is it not a good look, he's probably dragging about 3G in wind resistance. And it just absolutely baffles me that in the day and age of speed and acceleration, we've got a striker wearing a top 2 sizes too big and a pair of shorts 2 sizes too big. It just makes no sense at all. But yeah, Mark just didn't get into the game. 2 big but blundering centre halves, to go up against, and he barely kicked the ball. To Arsenal's credit, they won the match. No complaints from me on that front. They probably just about deserved it. They're in the ascendancy for the second leg now. Look, it's the League Cup. We'd like to win it. I think Arsenal would like to win it. But if you go out at this stage, it's one of those things. It's not the biggest competition of the season. But I would like to see Chelsea put up a good fight in the second leg to at least try and make it a game. If we get to Wembley, then fantastic. But we're likely to play Man City if we do. But when it comes to Liam Rosenior at the moment, I think the jury just has to be out, doesn't it? We can't judge him. We can't make any detailed analysis on him. He's getting used to the players. This is why a change mid-season can be detrimental sometimes, particularly when it's a young manager like him who wants to be everybody's mate. If this was, let's just say, Antonio Conte coming in today, he just wipes the slate clean. He just says, you're playing and you're not. And that's what he would have done. Obviously, when you get a coach like him, he's just like trying to get everybody on side. So he plays everybody, have everyone gets the minutes type of a thing. And I just don't think that works personally. But we can't, like I said, we can't judge him on 2 matches. And one of them was against the league leaders who are currently sort of, was it 6 or 7 points clear in the league, I think. So it was a difficult task tonight. Let's sort of judge him in the next 4 or 5 weeks going forward and see what the patterns of play look like, see what the formation looks like, see what players are playing more regularly. But I've got to say, when you're chasing a game and you bring on Tosin and Badiashile, I'll be honest with you, I was tapping out. I was tapping out big time. I was like, this is painful. And Giftwrapped, I know you're listening. I just hope you weren't laughing too hard when Tosin's number was brought up, because I was willing to turn the TV off at that stage. I've got to be honest with you. But listen, we're still in the tie. It's onwards and upwards for the second leg. And we look forward to a home game against Brentford at the weekend.
Oh, where to start with that one? Where to start with that? Joe, your comments about Mark Gui's shorts and shirt had me in hysterics there. So true. He also wears his socks ridiculously short as well, doesn't he? So it is an interesting look that he goes for. I don't know, I'm a little bit torn really on how to feel about the game, just because I think it bears repeating just how many players we had missing. And actually our best players. There's really little argument really that Cole Palmer, Moise Caicedo and Reece James are our 3 most important players, all missing. You add actually Malo Gusto into the mix. He's incredibly important in games like this. You add in Liam Delap, who obviously would have started the game. And that's a huge amount to take out of any team. If you took that out of Arsenal, then it is different. So I think like most people, when the team sheet dropped and you saw there and then you saw the bench, it was a bit like, okay, we've got this. We're playing with basically one arm tied behind our back a little bit tonight, aren't we? Which was, really just frustrating, and absolutely nothing on Rosenior and all the players for that. That is just the nature of it. And it sounds like there's a good chance that all of them could be back for the Saturday game. And there's an element of precaution there. And like you said, Joe, it's the League Cup. It's not the priority this season. So there is an element of sense, I think, in those decisions as well. I was actually quite surprised when the team sheets dropped just how strong Arsenal went. I think I'd said in the preview that I expected probably quite a bit of rotation still from them, and that you'd see, I don't know, Madueke and a few of the second kind of string players playing, but bar Kepa, Dino Arms as I call him, they were basically full strength. So yeah, Arsenal obviously went for it, and to be honest, we'll probably come out of that actually quite disappointed that it's not game over in the tie, because when you look at all the stats and the chances and sort of certainly their dominance at 3-1, at 3-1, the only team who looked like scoring nets was Arsenal, and bar a Rob Sanchez big toe, it would have gone 4-1 and it could have got quite ugly. But yeah, if there is a positive, from Chelsea's performance, or certainly the big positive, it has to be the character that we showed to stay in the game and get that second goal. And I think probably that was the one thing I took away thinking about it, was we didn't give up. We showed some personality. Kind of, I think it's enough to realistically keep us in the tie? I think it's a huge ask, isn't it, to go to the Emirates where we haven't beaten Arsenal now in 9 games, I think it is, which is just horrific run considering our dominance over them in the Drogba era. But this is a new era. But almost important that we didn't leave ourselves completely out of it. And like you say, you bring all those players back in, you go there with Cole Palmer, with Reece James, Caicedo, etc. Who knows? I want to pick on a couple of the things. So let's start with Rob Sanchez, because I think he was the headline story of the match. And whilst I didn't think that we were great, and I thought Arsenal were worthy winners, on another day, we don't throw 2 goals in. I mean, they were that bad. The first goal, the set piece, which I'll come on and talk about in a second in a bit more detail, but it was obviously terrible. And then the second one was like a bar of soap, wasn't it, under his arm, and there's just Gyökeres basically a complete gift in front from 3 yards out. And when that went in, you're like, oh no, this is the throwback to, like you said, Joe, old Sanchez. And I've listened to Liam Rosenior talking about Sanchez after the game and saying, I'm asking him to do things that he's not done before. I've got to put my stamp on the team, etc. And do you know what? I've been thinking about why Sanchez was suddenly so bad. And I think he's been asked to think about too much. And where Maresca kind of really worked out Rob Sanchez is basically keep it simple for him. Just keep it simple. Don't have him have too much to think about, bar keep the ball out of the net, come and claim crosses, and when you've got it at your feet, play fairly direct. And you were right, Joe. You kind of looked at him, and it always feels like you wanted to get into his head, didn't you? Thinking, what is he thinking about right now? It was almost like he's got so many things going on in his mind. And I think, unfortunately, that is on Rosenior, because he's clearly said, I want him to be part of the build-up play. I want him playing out. And it was almost like he had all these patterns of play in his head that he had to be thinking about, which was distracting him from the thing that he's actually fucking meant to be doing, and just keep the ball out of the net and come and claim crosses. So, we've been here before with Sanchez. We've been here before. We know where this goes, and it isn't good. So, I really hope that Rosenior has the sense to just say, right, let's forget that. Let's keep it simple for you. Let's go direct and look again in the summer. Maybe he's not the right man for it. Like, he's not Penders who's coming in the summer. So my fear, though, is that he won't, because managers are stubborn and have their ways of playing. And in the post-match conference, Rosenior said, I need to put my stamp on the team. I need to get them playing in my way. So time will tell. I have to talk about the set-piece thing again, from conceding for set-piece, because I've talked about it before on the pod, and it's driving me insane. And I'm just going to keep it really clear. Chelsea played Arsenal and Spurs in the space of a week or so, and left players up from corners and long throws, which meant that it cleared the box. They had to leave more players back, and it meant that Rob Sanchez could come and dominate the box. It was really smart. It worked incredibly well. And you saw loads of video clips and analysts saying that Chelsea have shown the rest of the league how to deal with Spurs and Arsenal, who are the sort of 2 most dangerous teams from set pieces. Since then, we've stopped doing it. And I cannot, for the life of me, work out why. You're playing Arsenal again, and you saw on that first goal, you saw every time they had a corner, didn't you? I mean, Arsenal, not to criticise them, but it's like playing Wimbledon in the 90s. There's a big cheer that goes up from their fans every time they get a corner, because it's like the Alamo coming in. It's not the most attractive football to watch, but it's very effective. Chelsea had sussed this, and the one man who has stayed from the Maresca era is Bruno Cueva, our set-piece coach, who is in charge of these situations, whose one thing today should have been, by the way, we've sussed this out with Arsenal defensively. This is what we do. We leave 3 up and they'll clear the box. They've got to leave at least 3 back, sometimes 4. It worked really well. Here's a load of clips from when we played them last time. But it's almost like that's been forgotten. And do you know what I was thinking about? I was trying to work out why we wouldn't do it. And this is going to sound ridiculous. It's almost that set piece coaches like Bruno Cueva are paid to innovate. Your job is to be innovative, to constantly be coming up with new ideas. For attacking set pieces, obviously, that's really important. You've got to keep teams guessing and make sure you're coming up with different ideas to score goals, which, to be fair, I mean, at the moment, we're just basically doing an in-swinger into the goalkeeper's arms every time. So it's not particularly innovative, but we're dangerous on set pieces. I'll give us our credit. But defensively, it's like, no, you don't need to innovate there. You did innovate and you cracked it. Just leave it at that. But it's almost like to justify his probably decently large wages, he needs to have a different defensive plan each game of how we're going to do it. And that is driving me insane. That's the only thing I could work out in my head for the reason why you wouldn't continue to do it, is if each game he's paid to come up with a different defensive set piece structure. And if he just went, we'll just do the same every week, then it's almost like he can't justify his job. Does that make sense? It's just the only thing I could work out, because it was driving me insane, which I was like shouting at the TV. Other things to pick out from the game in terms of positive, like Garnacho, 2 really good finishes. He's up to 10 goals and assists now already in his first Chelsea season, which is, he's one of those players, isn't he? He's just quietly effective. He's had other games where he's had those 2 chances and he's blasted them high into the stands. But I think the one big team selection thing he got wrong, and this is easy to say because he came on and scored 2, but even when sort of 20 minutes into the first half, I was looking at it thinking, yeah, Garnacho should have started instead of Marc Guéhi today, and they should have moved things around a little bit, maybe tried Estevao as a 10 or certainly something different. It just wasn't working, but Garnacho is really effective. There is another argument with Garnacho that he's just a brilliant impact sub, and this is a really good role for him, but I don't know how long you keep him happy doing that, but I was pleased for him, and he kind of has instilled a little bit of belief and certainly kept the score kind of respectable on the night. And then the other thing that has to be picked out is the descent. I mean, for fuck's sake, you kind of hope, like Rosenior's saying a lot of the right things about character, and really that the big thing with this group isn't so much tactical or, they're good footballers, etc. It is about mentality and getting them to work hard, to believe, and all these kind of nice things. The number of bookings once again for ill discipline was just, they're all annoying. Estevao got one in the first half. Pedro Neto late on, I was just like, what are you doing? It's just, what are you, like, insanity is doing the same thing and never learning from it, right? Expecting different, like, you've got to learn. You've got to learn. It's so basic. And I think there was a clip at the end of the game where on the pitch, Rosenior looked like he was having a right go at Neto for that booking, which if that is the case, then fair play and absolutely right to do so. And he's got to call these guys out. They've got to bring fines in, whatever you need to do to stop it, because it's just not good enough. Just not good enough. And I'll just comment on that final thing that Joe said about the centre-backs. I agree. None of those 4 are top level. If you can reconfigure it so that you're only playing one of them, I'd say that is a big win for Chelsea. And I think there's a strong argument to say play a back 3 with Reece right centre-back, like you said, Joe, and then just one of those guys. Or it's time to give Josh Achimpong minutes at centre-back and pick your battles. I mean, maybe Trev Chalobah and Josh Achimpong, or Fofana and Achimpong is the way to go, because they're all mid, aren't they? And yeah, with Fofana, it's been a little bit unlucky. He's had so many injuries since Chelsea bought him, but then he'd had a lot of injuries in his career before he joined Chelsea. He was one of the guys when we signed him, for those who remember, who they flew over to the US to get a special medical done to just double check that he wasn't going to have future injury issues. Well, that went well, which is it's sad, but we've seen it so many times with players who just lose that edge. And he's still a good footballer. He's still clearly a good Premier League player. It's just that level, isn't it? That level. He's the sort of guy that if he went to AC Milan, he'd be one of probably the best centre-backs in Italy and be excellent. But I think in the Premier League, the demands are just what they are. And Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure he'll be where we need him to be, like you said, Joe. But it'd be very interesting. I think the team on Saturday, which we'll talk more about, is going to be really fascinating. But he has to, I think, as much as try and get our best players on the pitch, make sure that the worst players aren't on it, and find a way to fix the configuration. There's a lot of games coming up. We will get more of a feel for Rosinia. I don't want to analyse him or judge him too much on Arsenal with all the injuries and things like that. I think we need to give him time. But that playing out from the back that we saw time and time again, it looked like in the second half we went a bit more direct. But what we were seeing in the first half is not ever going to be loved by Chelsea fans. And that immediately fills you with a little bit of worry, I would say.
I think that's the biggest problem when you hire a manager that hasn't got any star presence. And I don't mean to be insulting when I say that about Liam Rosinia. This has nothing to do with him or against him. It's just that when you have a manager that has his ideas and has been proven to work at clubs, whether that be in the Premier League or abroad, and they've managed the biggest teams, as a player you can be understanding when you're left out, or you can be understanding when they're trying to get you to do something that you don't agree with. Because ultimately it's their track record that's got them to a club like Chelsea, who are looking to win trophies and be at the top of the Premier League. Unfortunately, we're not fighting on those fronts. We're pretty much a cup team that can do quite well, maybe, sometimes. But ultimately, we're a team that are flailing in the league and have been flailing in the league for some time. But I think my disappointment and my voice notes that are coming across as slightly more down than Chris's at the moment is because I did believe this team was going to make a jump this year and they were going to move the needle, not to win the league, for goodness sake, but they were going to be in a position where they could really challenge and they could really fight, and we'd see a pull from, Cole Palmer's form would go up and Caicedo's form would go up and etc. And that would be enough to lift the other players around them. But unfortunately, it hasn't been the case. And like I say, now you've got a manager coming in who's starting all over again, which makes me nervous, particularly when you've got, as Chris rightly says, you've now got Sanchez playing out from the back like he did under Maresca in his first season, and it looks like he can't do it. And are we going to go through 6 weeks of this and drop more and more points? Because if we do continue to play that way, we're going to get punished. It sort of leads me on to Brentford, who have won 5 of their last 6 games in all competitions and drawing the other one, only losing to Man City in the game before that, which is no disgrace. This is a team in red-hot form. Thiago's banging in goals hand over fist. And Brentford have got an incredible record against Chelsea. They just have. Home or away, we always struggle against them. We have had some wins, 1 or 2, but nothing like they've had against us. And they've had some whopping great results. And I just have this horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. We're gonna be all excited for Brentford at the weekend, and before you know it, we're going to be a goal down by a complete catastrophic mistake. And I think that's the trap we fall into, is that we think that Chelsea can beat anybody on their day at home. And the proof has been that we can't. And teams like Brentford will make it difficult for us, and they have continued to do that. Now, that was Enzo Maresca, in fairness, and on occasions Pochettino as well, of the recent managers that we've had. But can Rosinia find a way, if we do go a goal behind at the weekend, can he find a way to get his teams pushing in the right direction and going to try and get that goal, opposed to tippy-tapping it around at the back and going nowhere? Because what I will say is this: last night the crowd were restless. When Sanchez made his 14th pass that went nowhere and then gave it away, the crowd were getting on his back. You could hear it, you could feel it, and you could sense it in the ground. It was getting very edgy, and there was getting a few disgruntled boos and noises. Now listen, that was a semi-final, and it was Rosinia's first game, so there's almost a bit of a pass for the manager. I guarantee you, against Brentford at the weekend, if we continue to play that way, the boos are going to come really fast. This isn't like, let's give Maresca a year, let's give him another year. We're past that, and the fans that are paying their money are past it. They don't want to see it anymore. They don't mind Chelsea playing out from the back if you can do it competently, but we can't. And the facts remain, we struggle with this. And I don't think we've actually got bad players that can't do it. I just think we're playing a particular way, and we're doing the same thing over and over again, and it's bonkers. Like, as I said yesterday in my voice note, you have to mix up your short passes, even if it goes to a different player and you change the angle of play. We played the same pass 15 times in the first half. I mean, it's just madness. And don't be fooled for 1 second if we think that Brentford are coming there for a draw or they'll be grateful to go away with any kind of result. They're coming to beat us, and they have beaten us, and they know they can beat us. And Keith Andrews, their manager, who I think is absolutely crap, is doing an amazing job with Brentford. And it goes to show you that if you get a style of play and you get your ideas across to your players early enough, you can do anything in football. And Keith Andrews has basically come off the street pretty much and is managing a Premier League team to 5th place in the league at the moment. You have to give them credit, and you have to give the manager credit for doing what he's doing. Do I like his football? No, I don't. Would I want Chelsea to play that way? Absolutely not. But they don't care about that. Brentford are looking at the bigger picture. Can they get themselves a top half finish in the Premier League? That's a lot of money to them. Can they stay away from the relegation zone? Yes. It's worth a lot of money to them. And to be fair to them, they're pushing for the European places, and we are in January, and there's a long way to go. But the way they're going, we all expect them to fall off a little bit, and I think most teams do, most fans do, sorry. But the way they're playing, they're the team that are in real form, and they will not fear us. And that leash that Rosenior's got is going to get shorter and shorter and shorter, to the point where you're going to be like, oh dear. 2 games in, the fans are going to go ballistic if they lose to Brentford at home at the weekend. I guarantee you now there is going to be a revolt. I don't care what anybody says, there will be uproar, because we've gone from Maresca to Rosenior, who I would say the fans weren't particularly happy with, and you're going to get post-match comments from Rosenior, and they're going to be really fascinating. They're going to be interesting. We're all going to like them, but ultimately, no one is going to care because they're going to think he's a blue coat puppet, and that is the trouble that you cause yourself if you hire from within. You're not hiring a top-class manager that's got a track record of winning multiple trophies. Another experimental manager, and that's what he has to be classed as. And that's not me being mean to Rosenior. I want him to succeed. Believe me, I want this guy to succeed. I like him, but he's going to get no time, and it's not going to be his fault. And he has to come up with a way at the weekend where he has to really not blowing them out the water, Brentford, but you think he needs a good result. Any win's a good win, right? We take 3 points. But I feel like Chelsea need a good win and a good performance, because I don't know when the last time we did that. It would have been Barcelona in the Champions League, but we need both to happen in the league, because it's been a long, long time since that's been the case. Even the 1-0 win we had against Everton was pretty drab. It's not been good. And sadly, Rosenior's in a bit of a position where he can't win whatever he does. And whatever happens against Brentford, I really hope he can stick this out, take the team on his back. But ultimately, Liam, you've got to help yourself. You've got to play the right players. You cannot be experimenting with all the usual old trash that we've got in that team, because I'm sorry, it isn't going to wash with a lot of people. Go to your back 3. It seems the most considered, the most competent formation. You're used to playing it, even though Chelsea aren't as such. I think you need to do something to stop the ball going in the net, the other end, and then we can build on the 4 players. And Chris is right, we did have a lot of players missing yesterday, but excuses, we can't keep making them. And I'm going to say something quite controversial here, and Palmer may be struggling a little bit with injury, maybe, who knows, but he needs a good game. I don't think he's had a good game really this season, if I'm being brutally honest. And I think he's getting away with it a little bit. There's a few players in the team that get punished and they get talked about and they get knocked. And this isn't an anti-Cole Palmer take. It's just, I think that he kind of has these moments in games where he does bits and pieces. And yeah, he's our star player and all the rest of it. But there comes a point where you can't just keep drifting in and out of games whenever you want. You have to actually take him by the scruff of the neck like you were doing when you first burst onto the scene at Chelsea. And I think you need to start doing it quickly, because I feel like there's an essence of passing the buck slightly. And you can't use the excuse now that Maresca's there and you didn't like him perhaps, or you didn't like his style of play. You've got a new manager playing possibly a much more front-footed approach to the game. You've got to come out there and prove to everybody that you are the style player that you are, because I think at the moment it's been sadly lacking for a good few weeks and months.
To say that Saturday's game isn't must win would be a massive understatement. I think it's so important that we win. I almost wasn't nervous. I think I get quite nervous before big Chelsea games, and weirdly, I wasn't that nervous against Arsenal. I think to me, it sounds sick because it's a semi-final of a competition, and of course we want to win it. It just didn't feel that important to me in the context of our season. Saturday, though, is very different, and I know that come match time, I'm going to be sort of nervous, and it just feels very important. I said before Rosinia started that he would need to start well. With the appointment and everything you just said there, Joe, is absolutely spot on. Any new manager needs to start well, but when you're a guy who has so little experience, it's seen as maybe a bit of a blue cone man, all this kind of stuff, it's extra important to get fans on side quickly. And yeah, it's not going to be an easy game, and we need to see the right stuff on the pitch. Before I kind of talk about what my team would be for the game, I wanted to talk about someone who I forgot to mention last night, which is João Pedro. What has happened to him? What has happened to João Pedro? He looks a shadow of the player that he was when he first started Chelsea. And I know we've touched upon this before, but I was watching him yesterday, and what was worrying was that it wasn't just that he was in and out of the game and some things weren't coming up. It was just his basic decision making. It was like everything was wrong. When he should have been looking to turn and shoot, he was passing. When he should have passed, he was doing something else. It was just everything looked bad, really. And I'm trying to work out, is it a little bit of injury? We've heard that he's been playing through an injury at times. Is it that? Is it exhaustion? Another player that didn't really have much of a break in the summer. He sort of joined us, didn't he, halfway through the Club World Cup, and was straight into action. And again, we just don't know the effects of that weird summer that we've had for the Chelsea players. But is it that, or is it just complete lack of confidence? Has he lost that? I mean, that was the thing that hit me when he joined Chelsea. He just looked so confident right from minute one. It was like, I remember saying in the summer, I was like, what have we signed here? It was like a cross between Anelka and Drogba at times. He had a bit of everything. He was good in the air like that. He's got a couple of brilliant headers, didn't he, early on? He hitting shots from outside the box, all sorts of things that he was doing as soon as he came to the team. We've really seen none of that for a few months, bar a couple of moments here and there, like a good goal at Newcastle. There just hasn't been enough of it. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought we might see, he hasn't played as many minutes in the last couple of weeks. I thought maybe he's exhausted, but he was terrible against Arsenal. And I worry about him a little bit. Still, he clearly has something, but we're not seeing it. My team then, I am echoing Joe completely here with what we need to do. If I'm Liam Rosinia, I am like, let's shut the door and let's make ourselves hard to play against again. I feel like we talked a little bit about, it's what Tuchel did when he came in, but I think there are parallels at where Chelsea are now. And that really is reflected in my team. It's Sanchez in goal. Yes, it is, but let's have a proper Sanchez back, please. The 2025 version, not the 2024 one. I'd go with the back three. I'm going to go Reece James, right centre back. I'm going to go Trev Chalobah in the middle, and I'm putting Hato on the left. So I've got a nice balance with right and left footers either side of Chalobah. I want to see Hato given some game time. I think he's actually played pretty well recently, and I think left centre back suits him really well. I've got two proper wing backs in Malo Gusto and Cucurella. There would be suggestions of that wingers could play there like Neto or Garnacho and things like that. But actually, let's make ourselves hard to beat. Let's make ourselves difficult. And I think with those two, both can get up and down the pitch really well, as we know. And I think that it just makes us look a lot more solid. And ironically, you've almost got 5 defenders on the pitch, but only one of them's a proper centre-back. but I actually think you're putting your 5 best defenders on the pitch, which is probably the 5 best footballers, which is probably the reason I would go that way. I put Enzo and Caicedo in the middle together. Yeah, again, I thought Enzo was good actually yesterday. He was the one player that in that midfield that you felt like could make things happen for us. And one thing I've really noticed very quickly under Lou Mourinho, just a small tactical game state thing, is how close the two centre midfielders play together and how much they almost do lots of very short passes to each other. It's a real, you can see it immediately, immediately against Charlton. I saw it again last night. And actually, I think that could really suit Enzo, because I think where Enzo has to end up covering a lot of ground when he's in that middle doesn't always suit him. But I think having Caicedo close to him could really bring out the best in that partnership. So I'd have those two in there. And then you've got 2 number 10 inside forward types. And it's my team. I get to pick this. I'm going with the 2 that I've been dreaming of seeing playing that role together for a while, which is Esteval and Cole Palmer. 2 number 10s can obviously drop wide. I'd have them basically being hard to mark, cutting inside and out, and then behind, hopefully a again Liam Delap up front who can stretch the pitch. That would be my 11. I agree. We need to see a proper Cole Palmer performance. We need to see a proper Chelsea performance, and there's going to be protests before the game, which I talked about on the last pod. Those noises and protests will only get louder and more vociferous and to grow in numbers if Chelsea aren't winning football games. And it's very, very hard it'll be hard for the team, be hard for the manager and hard for the club to ignore those voices if we're not winning football games. I think if we start winning some games, put a run together, then quite a lot of that noise probably dies down, to be honest. But football is a results business, and it has to start on Saturday in what will be a big game. And then we obviously have Paphos in the Champions League in the midweek. But bread and butter is the Premier League. Let's face it, on a terrible run, and the league table won't bear looking at, I don't think, if we don't win on Saturday. But if we do, then things look rosy again very quickly. So here's hoping for a good performance. And before we finish the episode today, I've just seen some breaking news that Buonanotte has left. So he's gone back to Brighton and then immediately gone out on loan to Leeds, which is interesting. He'll be remembered as one of the weirder Chelsea signings, won't he, in recent years? And someone who had a couple of little moments and never went beyond really just looking like a neat and tidy player that wasn't quite good enough. So, but the interesting thing about that is that it would seem that Chelsea have done it to create room in the squad for a new signing. And Matt Law has just published an article in the Telegraph saying that the signing will be a central defender. Our prayers have been answered. I should say that's really good news. It's something that Chelsea should have done in the summer. We know that once Colwill was injured, it was clear that Chelsea needed a ball-playing defender that was missing from the squad. The question is, what profile of player do they go for? And will it be someone who can legally drink in the USA? Please, Chelsea, please sign someone with experience. I don't think they realise just what that would do for the fans, and all the stuff I said about protests and everything earlier, if it just shows that they are willing to do something different, bring someone in to show that you are listening and you are aware that this team badly is lacking in that area. I don't know the names of who exactly that is, but Chelsea have got a massive scouting network. There are defenders out there that would come in and immediately be able to organise us and make us better at the back. I really hope that's the sort of signing that we see come in, not another 20 or 21-year-old that just isn't going to be ready to do that for us yet, because we've got plenty of them. And that role in my squad is Josh Achimpong. He's the really highly rated, exciting, growing defender. We need someone to come in and really organise and be the grown-up in the room, basically. Thiago Silva. We need Thiago Silva of 5 years ago. That's what we need. We'll see you next time. We'll be back after the big game of the weekend to reflect on it, as always. And thanks for listening. And remember, every little thing's going to be all right. those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be all right.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.